So we are currently 25 games into this NBA season for the Cleveland Cavaliers, and they are currently sitting at 14-11, which is good for 8th place in the Eastern Conference. Now, last season at this time, the Cavs were 21-4, and right after this point in the season, continued on a 12-game win streak, which put them at 33-4 to start the year last season. And for those who know, I'm a Cleveland boy. I grew up around the area. I now live in Cleveland, so this one kind of hits close to home making this video. But I just wanted to make a video talking about some of the changes I've seen from last season to this season regarding this Cavs roster, and talk about what's been going on so far this year that's contributed to this underwhelming start we've seen from them. So let's start by establishing the fact that the only real rotational players to leave this season from last season have been Ty Jerome, Isaac Okoro, and Javonte Green, who are basically replaced with the additions of Lonzo Ball, Larry Nance Jr., Tyrese Proctor, and Naquan Tomlin, which I personally see to be an upgrade on paper, or at least a parallel move that was made to this win now roster that the Cavs have. Now, to paint the picture on the outlook that this Cleveland team had coming into the season was, last team this season was extremely successful in the regular season, finishing first place in the Eastern Conference. However, last season, the story was that player health killed this team come playoff time. In their second round matchup against the Pacers, Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, and DeAndre Hunter all missed crucial time in that series, which inevitably led to them losing to a team who ended up making the NBA Finals. Now, the expectations were set coming into this season for the Cavs, in that this team was going to pace itself throughout the season, and that this organization was not going to let injuries be the reason this team falls short again. It was understood that any lingering injuries were going to be managed in the earlier part of the season instead of the later parts of the year. And I totally agree with this philosophy, especially when we look at this roster and see how good this team has proven to be on paper. At the end of the day, availability is the best ability for this team, and they need to be fully healthy, especially come playoff time. But now that we are over a quarter into this NBA season, it is almost getting to the point where I want to hit the panic button on this Cavs team as a whole. So let's go down this roster and dive a little bit into why this team just doesn't look the same as they did last year. Now, firstly, I want to give Donovan Mitchell his props. He has not been the reason this team has struggled, and it seems like he has had to exert himself way more just to keep this team above a winning record. He's averaging over 30 points per game. He's been extremely efficient and has single-handedly kept this Cavs team competitive in many games this year. So I really do not want to talk about Donovan Mitchell so much, because when this team is at its best, it's not just Donovan running the show, it's a group effort, and we just haven't seen a ton of that so far this year. So the first red flag I want to talk about is what is currently happening with Darius Garland. Now, Garland has already missed 16 games this year, and it seems like he has constantly been in and out of the rotation with injury management. But past that, when he's on the court, he's just been nowhere near as impactful within this unit. The Cavs are currently 4-5 in games that Darius Garland has played this year. He continues to struggle defensively. He's shooting just 35% from the field and 32% from three. He just doesn't look like the same Darius Garland that played that co-star role alongside Donovan Mitchell for the last few seasons. And I assume a lot of that has to do with the fact that he just hasn't found his footing with the team this year. There's just little continuity rotation-wise, and this continuity is exactly what this Cavs front office and coaching staff has preached over the last couple of seasons, when they have refused to make any moves regarding their four core players in D-Mitch, Jared Allen, Darius Garland, and Evan Mobley. Now, I also want to talk about Evan Mobley and how he just really hasn't grown production-wise, even in the absence of Darius Garland and Max Strus. I'll just cut straight to the chase. I don't think Mobley has made that leap offensively that a lot of people expected from him this year. Many nights he just lacks that aggression I want to see from him personally. I still would not classify Evan Mobley as a good shot creator. And from what we're seeing right now, I don't think Evan Mobley's ceiling is as high as we thought it would be. Don't get this wrong, Mobley is a great player, and I don't think a lot of the blame is to be put on him. I just think expectations-wise, a lot of people expected him to take that next leap to being a top 15 player in the NBA. Especially with the situation the Cavs are in injury-wise, a lot of people definitely expected Mobley to enter that upper echelon of scorers in the league, and we're just not fully seeing that from him. He's currently posting averages of 19 points per game, 9 rebounds, and 4 assists on 50% from the field and 35% from three. So it's not like production has been bad, and he is still extremely valuable defensively. For me, it's more of the visual stuff that I see from him. He can take himself out of the game sometimes. And also sometimes watching Evan Mobley share the court with Jared Allen can still look a little weird to me chemistry-wise. But yeah, Evan Mobley, I'm still a fan of the guy. I just think he lacks some key tendencies that could really move him into that next echelon of player in the NBA. But anyways, moving on from Mobley, I want to talk about our first start to a season with DeAndre Hunter on the Cavs. And while I have generally liked this addition, he has also struggled with consistency shooting the ball. He goes off for big nights and will often prop up this unit offensively down stretches, but he also does it in a high volume of shots taken, and the efficiency is just not as high as you'd want to see from a guy who is sometimes the second option on this team offensively. He's currently averaging 16 points per game on 44% from the field and 31% from three. And just offensively as a whole, I want to see better shot selection. I want to see less isolations, more of that team ball we saw last year with the Cavs. Now, one addition the Cavs have made that have made players around him better this season has been the addition of Lonzo Ball. Now, I personally love the fit of Lonzo on this team. I think he is a perfect complementary piece to a lot of the offensive firepower that this roster has. However, injuries have led Lonzo to bear a lot of the offensive load in many games, and he just straight up has had a rough season scoring the ball. Lonzo is currently averaging 5.5 points per game on 29% from the field and 27% from three. And for his volume, it hurts to say this, but he is literally like at rock bottom in the NBA when it comes to scoring efficiency right now. It's just clear that he hasn't found his groove offensively, and I don't really think the Cavs were expecting to rely on Lonzo this much to score the ball, but it definitely has been a red flag for this team just in general. And what kind of paints the picture for this whole team so far this season, the rotation seems to be changing every single game. Everybody has missed time, whether it's been due to injuries or injury management. It has almost gotten to the point where I don't think the Cavs can afford to continue to rest their top guys simply because they are slipping too far in the standings. Like I said, they're currently sitting at 8th in the East right now. As stated before, DG has missed more than half of their games this season. Jared Allen has missed 10 games. Sam Merrill, who has been a huge part of this team, has missed the last couple of weeks. Max Strus hasn't played a game this season. So yeah, the number one priority for this team has to be getting guys healthy, or at least having enough cohesion as a unit to be successful down the stretch when guys are missing time. We must also note this team has the highest payroll in the NBA, which puts them above the second apron restriction. So this team is built to be in a position to compete, and we're just not seeing that on full display so far this year. Now, to highlight some positives for the Cavs that do give me some type of hope, the first guy to acknowledge has to be Donovan Mitchell, who is really locked in this season when it comes to scoring the ball. He's played hero ball a bunch for this team. He's currently averaging 30.5 points per game, 5.5 assists, and 5 rebounds, shooting 50% from the field and 39% from deep. He scored 35 points or more in 8 games this season, and he's really just been the guy to fall back on when the Cavs need a boost, which has been very often this year. So yeah, I believe we're seeing like a 5 or 6 point increase in points per game from Donovan this year. Like I said, taking a lot of the load offensively for this team, especially with how many injuries the Cavs have been dealing with. Then I want to talk about how impressed I've been with Jalen Tyson, a guy who seemed to fill that Isaac Okoro role for the Cavs this year, except for he's just a lot better than Isaac Okoro was. He's posting 13 points per game on 53% from the field and almost 47% from three. He's just that perfect 3-and-D guy who works within the flow of the offense. He's a very solid defender and just a guy who doesn't make a lot of mistakes. Tyson has started a bunch of games this year for the Cavs in the absence of Max Strus. And I've been really impressed with how comfortable and poised he is as a player, especially for a guy who's only going into his second season in the NBA. But yeah, 47% from three from Jalen Tyson. That is very impressive to me. He's just never a guy who's going to do too much. He's just out there to do his job, and I've been really impressed with him. And another guy who has impressed me a lot for this team has been Naquan Tomlin, who found himself playing big rotational minutes pretty early into the season. I just love this dude's energy, and you can just tell that he plays with so much confidence on the floor. And yes, his confidence sometimes can be a little much. He can take some bad, overconfident shots, but this is exactly the type of player that the Cavs need. A Cavs team that I think can be way too conservative at times. A Cavs team that was pushed around in the playoffs last year. So Tomlin has excited me a lot as a fan. And a little ball knowledge here. For those who didn't know, Naquan Tomlin never played high school basketball. He grew up in Harlem, New York, eventually went to junior college and joined the basketball team, and now he's in the NBA, which is just a wild story to me. Just wanted to include that. Now, when it comes to this Cavs team, something is going to have to change with this roster. It is unfortunate to say, but I think as is, this Cavs team is not good enough to compete for a championship this season. So I would not be surprised at all to see something go down before the trade deadline this year. I love the proposals I'm seeing online of packaging Garland and Mobley for Giannis. However, any trades are going to be extremely difficult for this team. Like I said before, they are in the second apron, and that really restricts your ability to make changes to your roster. Now, an example of one of those restrictions that the second apron will put on a team is that you can't aggregate salaries to match one player's salary. For example, if the Cavs wanted to trade two guys making $20 million per year for a guy who's making $40 million a year, that wouldn't be allowed. So it would have to be either 1-to-1, 2-to-2, or vice versa. You send one guy for two guys. I think that's kind of an underrated talking point in the NBA right now, is how much that second apron restricts teams to, improve through whether it's free agency or trades. But yeah, I would love to hear what your guys' thoughts are on this roster, any potential trades you guys like. What do you think is holding this Cavs team back the most? But yeah, that's all I have to talk about in this video. Please consider subscribing if you like these kinds of videos. Make sure to drop a like. But yeah, that's everything I have to say in today's video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.